to the electrical company's wiring here is uphill. Everybody knows water does not run uphill unless it's pumped. There's no way to get stormwater up that hill and then down over the ridge into Clark's Creek unless you were to pump it. We are not doing that. Our proposal shows the basins out the front of the building, and it goes into the Susquehanna Basin, which again must be approved for water quality, so there's no damage done to the waters or the aquifers. And we'll go into the Susquehanna. It's impossible by virtue of the topography of this lot, unless you were to pump stormwater or pipe it up there, to get to Clark's Creek. The tract of land we're proposing, you can see where the boundaries of it are on the proposed diagram. In addition to that, we screen. So, we just don't see the impact that anybody could suggest that we're gonna have as a result of putting that building there to Clark's Creek. We did show going out from Hagy Lane, I'm sorry, not Hagy Lane, Affection, that we were proposing to put a road with 2 emergency gates and to upgrade a section of that private road so that there would be a catastrophic entrance for emergency vehicles. They would not be able to be accessed by the tractor trailers or cars. That's the purpose of the double fence. But in the event that emergency services or the fire company had to get in, there are breakaway gates that they can get in to access that property. I think that about covers it. It's, we believe that it's a good rezoning. We think it's a clean rezoning. We think it benefits the township. If there's any further questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Well, how about if we next hear from Kyle at Dauphin County or Ed from Lake Heigl, and then we will move on for questions for our planning commission. And only after that time will we then accept 3-minute comments at the microphone for any of you who would like to speak. So Kyle from Dauphin County, any comments?
Good evening. No official comments from Dauphin County this month. I had asked a few questions personally last month related to the truck traffic and trip generation, and that was answered through the TPD addendum provided. So at this time, Dauphin County has no official comments yet because it has not been sent for review through the County Planning Commission.
Kyle, do you often at Dauphin County Planning see rezoning requests?
We see them throughout the county. The zoning does change from time to time through different municipalities. It just depends on the different needs of each municipality. So.
Okay, thank you for that. Ed, any comments from Lake Heigl?
Well, I would say not from Lake Heigl as much as from the Township Zoning Office. You can hear? That's better. Okay. The applicant has done a good job in terms of bringing you up to speed and talking a little bit about this, but because there has been so much incorrect information put out there, we wanted to be sure that everyone understood that the submission by Pocono Business Park LLC is a petition to rezone the land. There is no plan before you for development at this time. No testing, no reports have been processed, and typically are not during a rezoning petition. So the issue before you is simply rezoning. Now, the applicant has been forthright in saying, you know, that their end use, they would like a warehouse. And that's great, but they're under no obligation to have done that. They could simply just ask for the rezoning, and whatever the use is, it is. But again, they've been forthright to say, we want it rezoned because of this. Their case that they need to present and put on to the township really has no bearing on what the end use is. Is this an appropriate place? Is this the best place, or is this a better place for CI zoning? Understand that the property is currently zoned R3, CO, and R1 residential. It's not zoned agricultural. It is zoned for development at this point. The property may be developed by right, no hearing required, under the CO district for a number of permitted uses: office, medical laboratories, mortuaries, convenience stores with gas dispensers, big box stores, retail center, shopping center, automotive and trailer sales, gas station repair centers. You know, list goes on pretty extensively as to what could be done by right on the property currently. Just again to make sure everyone understands it. I know last month this came up, and they have an exhibit there that shows this. The property owner currently has plan approval, went through the planning commission a year or more back, for 216 garden apartments. So that is done. It's in process in terms of recording and posting the financial guarantees, and at some point we expect that development will occur for those 216 apartments. But it's not what we're here. That's done. It is what it is. I want to be clear, just so that again the Planning Commission understands that the township must provide for all uses under current PA regulations. The township cannot, in general, say no warehouses. We have to provide for all uses. And again, it comes back to the question, is this property the appropriate area for something like that? We have to permit all uses such as asphalt plants, quarries, meat packing facilities, apartments, single-family dwellings, shopping centers. We have to provide for every possible use, is what the Pennsylvania Municipality Planning Code requires us to do. And then one thing that, again, it's not so much at the Planning Commission level, but the Board of Supervisors will have to consider the fact that zoning decisions like this can be appealed to Commonwealth Court, and that leaves less discretion, less oversight by the local municipality. So there's a number of factors, but the biggest thing that I want to stress is that this is a rezoning petition. Any use that goes on this property is going to have stormwater issues, it's going to have traffic issues, it's going to have lighting issues, and they all have to be dealt with or mitigated during the development process, which would come, a year or two down the road. So although it's very easy to focus on what they have put before us as their intended use, we're just not there yet. I mean, we're at rezoning, and whether this is appropriate or not. And again, that's the question that the supervisors have asked for a recommendation from this board.
Yeah, thank you. Julie Seeds, do you have any comments now before I open it up to our board for questions?
I think Ed Fisher covered those.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now it's time for our own board members to ask questions of either Ed or Kyle or the applicants. Anyone?
Yeah, I have some. Okay, now can you hear me? I was not here last month, so if the questions I'm asking are redundant, I'm sorry. For the applicant, do you have other warehouses that you develop?
I have, taken care-
Microphone.
I have acted as a consultant and subdivider for various other warehouses. And, currently, I work with Core 5, that's the most recent one, Londonderry Township. I'm preparing to do a very large T&D. I consulted with Core 5, they're building 2 warehouses out there. I think one's 600,000 square feet, the other's about 350,000 square feet. Several letters of intent contracts that we're working on. I'm in the process of filing a plan in East Lampeter Township for 3 buildings that are smaller than this building. I've been in business approximately 4.5 decades as a land developer and a builder. I do quite a bit of consulting because I'm getting older, and I don't have anybody following behind me. So some of them, I take one, 2 projects that we get involved and we build it out. Some of them we act as consultants for other.
Okay, so in other words, Pocono Business Park is not going to construct a warehouse that they will operate.
Okay, typically what we do is we get the building approved, and then we find a leasee who wants to come in and lease it. Typically someone like Nissan or one of the food companies or pharmaceuticals. They would decide either to pay us to act as a construction manager, coordinate everything with them, and then get a GC to do the building. Some of them have their own builders when they come in to build the building. At this point, we don't know how that's going to play out. It's early in the game. You have at least a year down the road by the time you get through the township and all the state. And it just depends on the demand, whether we can get the labor for them locally quicker than they can get it by bringing in somebody else.
Okay, so at this stage of the game, you don't know who might lease it,
No, sir.
or what might be in the warehouse.
No, sir.
And you really probably you can't make any accurate statements on the truck trips without knowing who's going to be in it.
No, that's not an accurate statement. So the truck traffics it's based on the number of docks that you have. And the traffic study must be submitted to PennDOT, and traffic engineer has to come out with that. This isn't, first of all, it's a big building, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a small warehouse. This isn't an Amazon, where you've got, you have 500 trucks a day. But that is what it is.
So remember, one speaker, please, just show respect to all of us.
Like the respect you showed us by passing this through with nobody knowing about it to begin with.
Yeah. Go ahead, Don. We are hearing now from Don Morris. Go ahead, Don.
Okay, let me check what that's here. What exactly is a net zero developer?
Somebody who, when they go in to do a community, that attempts to cover costs that would be involved or incurred by a municipality as a result of the impact going in from, whether it's lighting or trees or stop sign, one-way sign, in a residential, because we do residential developments also, not under Pocono business, but I do, that, they might need a speed bump. You need a do not enter, an additional do not enter sign that initially all the engineers, whether it's township or PennDOT or anybody else, missed, and it really should be put in. So we feel that we make that contribution as a neighbor.
You mentioned that the closest building to the west was 600 feet away.
I think
Is
between
that-
550 and 600, Joel,
Is
can you
that-
point that out?
That's to the apartment buildings?
Actually, no, the
No, that's
closest,
houses.
we're talking just to the residents,
Hagy Lane.
to the east, and it's about 500 feet.
Well, I thought he said west towards Cape.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
No.
this is your, these apartment buildings it would be at least 500.
Okay, well, I misunderstood. Can you put up the slide you had with the layover of the proposed C1
Oh, yes.
and the remaining CO?
Make a proposed zoning.
No, that's not it. He wants to use the colored one that shows the two different zones. Yes, that's
Yeah.
it.
You want the existing or proposed? Okay.
Now, I'm not sure about percentages, but the rezoning of the CI is taking away maybe about 60% of the CO in the township. And you have it portrayed there to the south and east of the proposed C1 lot. Now, if I wanted to build an office there, how would I get to that?
If you wanted to build an office.
Well,
for
if I wanted to build an office on that commercial office lot there, how would I gain access to that?
Well, this area is CO. so
Microphone?
It can be developed anyway, CO. This is part of the right of way that's attached, is currently CO. So we only zone the area that's the minimum amount we need to rezone. So this would be available for development, likely this area is the area that's most likely.
Well, yeah, but if someone wanted to purchase that lot or put something on it, how would they get there?
That's an adjacent parcel, it's an
That's it.
adjacent parcel,
Yeah,
it's not our
It's
property.
not our property.
Well, then we're,
Our property ends at this location area.
I think he's asking as to access to,
Well, I guess based on, Reflection Lane is the only access to that lot.
But isn't that the emergency?
It is the emergency.
so, okay, so you're basically eliminating, on this, you're eliminating all of the CO that's there now.
Yeah, that area would still be zone CO. We're just rezoning the area, the minimum amount that we need for this development to occur. The remaining portion that is CO in the township, it's not in our control to rezone it, it's not our property. So it's just, it's the remaining CO that's on in the zoning ordinance or map.
Okay, well, the CO that was there originally, where did that go?
It's what pick up the road.
Yeah,
See,
this is your existing zone. Yeah. CO, see our property boundary, which is right here.
Please use the microphone.
We can't see.
No, I'm trying to do better, sorry. You can see the CO is a pink.
We can't see.
And then the property boundary is in the black. So you see basically what the rezoning is to take the property and rezone the portion that's R3 to CI, and the portion that's CO to CI, and make it contiguous to the CI to the south. Areas that are not on our property, we're not gonna rezone.
Okay, well, then everything I'm looking at there now that's zone CO is gone.
It's actually, if you look.
On your property, on the.
On our property, yes.
On our property.
Yes, on our property, we've
So
taken
we're
area of
look-
CO and turned it to CI.
So
That's correct.
a commercial office, which basically is designed to service the needs of the residents, people visiting the community, people that want to move here, is being taken away and being replaced with this CI. Correct?
Yeah.
We are basically using CI in area here for industrial. The CO is, again, it's not on our property, so we can't rezone that.
No, but you answered my
Could there be
question.
some use there in the future? That depends on the owners of the property and how they would want to develop
Now,
it.
you answered my question, this proposal eliminates all of the existing CO on the present track, the LDI track.
On our track, yes, but there's also other CO in the township.
Well, I said LDI track.
Yes.
So that was my question. You mentioned 300 feet of township road being impacted.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, that's maybe good or bad. Bad part is you're concentrating a whole lot of traffic in one small area. Right. From looking at, would there not be difficulty, the westbound ramp to 322 is a back angle ramp, and if you're approaching it from the west on Allegheny Street, I think that would be very difficult for a large truck to make that turn. Also, with the access that's proposed, coming east on 322, coming up the ramp to Allegheny Street, there's a stop sign. A left-hand turn and a substantial slowdown possibly from truck traffic not moving very quickly. Would it not be better to figure out a way to gain access on 225?
Well, the existing road as approved in the master plan for the apartments and for the balance of the track does show this road. So basically, the township's 300 feet is what's being impacted. Everything else would require, PennDOT.
I get that. I get that. Okay. Okay, right now, you're equitable owner, you're not, there's no money, there's no deed transfer.
No deed has transferred, that's correct.
Okay, I'll shut up for a couple of minutes till I look there, see if anybody else has anything.
We can have other commissioners ask questions if you would like, Don. You don't have to feel like you have to ask all of them right now.
Somebody else.
Yeah, so any other board members want to ask some questions of the applicant or of Ed or Kyle?
Ed, I have a question. I'll speak loud, hopefully loud enough. The zoning, we must provide space for, we're in a retail we're already providing for retail establishment. We must now, if a warehouse or commercial space, we have to have a place in the township, that's what's before us tonight, not what they're building, is that correct?
Right, your zoning map, your zoning ordinance must provide for every possible use. Whether it's an asphalt plant, whether it's a meat packing facility, whether it's single-family houses, whether it's apartments, whether it's a shopping center, a big box store. Under the current state regulations that we have to abide by, the municipality planning code, it requires municipalities to provide for every possible use.
Thanks.
And I have a follow-up. So you mentioned that if
Microphone.
you mentioned, I think, Ed, that if there were be litigation, that the township loses, I forget her exact words, the township loses some of its discretion, I think is what you said. And I just want to understand what you could have meant by that. If it's out of the township, I mean, if it goes to litigation.
If we would not provide for a particular use, or adequately provide for a particular use, then a court, a judge could say, yes, they can go ahead and do it, and, you know, wherever, you know, that would happen to be. That's why we do comprehensive plans, that's why we, you know, try to keep things as consistent as possible, you know, with the ordinances.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something else.
Questions?
Question that I was wondering if, because the lower section of it is now considered commercial industrial, and they're asking for the upper section, are we required by the state, in a percentage-wise, or in terms of what we have to allow and not allow?
There's not actual percentages. It really comes down more to need and what property owners, you know, want to do. And again, as I said, that's why we do comprehensive planning. That's why we try to keep the zoning map as uniform and well planned out for areas of zoning. If you look at the existing zoning map, you'll see that you have several areas of CO. This is obviously one of those tracks that is CO.
More questions?
Ed, the comprehensive plan shows net developable area of CO in the township as 41.72 acres. And we now are apparently removing 38. So, is that an issue? I would wonder.
I don't believe that's an accurate number when you look at the zoning map, because up along Peters Mountain Road, we probably have at least 20, 25 acres, and then there's probably another 10 or 15 that's up by well, I shouldn't say 322, but McKelvey Road up there.
Okay, so, I mean, I'm just reading from our own comprehensive plan. So what you're saying is 100 isn't going to 100%, it's going to be 50. And that CO is zoning that's to provide services to the residents, for people that move here, want to move here, travel through here. Now I'm going to jump onto something else. The existing LPI property, and I'm trying to put myself into somebody else's shoes here. Is it 226 apartments are being proposed?
216.
216. And if I recall, Eric, they're portrayed as high-end, upscale garden.
Three-story garden apartment building,
Okay.
9 buildings.
Now, if I'm somebody coming into Middle Paxton Township to look at Riverview Apartments, and it's a fantastic view, to move into Middle Paxton Township, essentially rural in character, with 3 beautiful valleys, and I find out that next door to me is a truck warehouse, I'm not sure I might wanna rent that apartment. And then, take it a step further, not only that, but now I find out, in addition to it being beside me, when I go in and out, I have to share the same road. And then that way, I might say, no, I'm not interested. So is there
We've got a development team that's advancing that right now, and they're.
Microphone.
Why don't you have it then?
Take it somewhere else.
Show us it.
Our development team is advancing the 216 garden apartment units right now, and it's likely that those will advance, our hope is that these will advance at the same time. There's no reservation, the 216 garden apartment units, there's no reservation on behalf of that developer of having the industrial use adjacent to it.
Okay, I mean, my thought process is the proximity and the sharing of the road especially diminishes the,
There's no problem.
you say there's no problem.
Order, please, order. We can have another question from another board member if you would like to take a moment. Jeff Smith?
I have a follow-up, hopefully everyone can hear me. I have a follow-up question just to Chip, I think, for Ed. If the amendment was approved and if it went through, you know, we're talking about a warehouse now, but just so I'm clear, not only could you put in a warehouse, but it would be whatever industrial uses are permitted in that district, correct? So it could be any of the listed uses.
That's correct.
The way that the amendment was written that's before us now, it's very specific to change it from CO to CI. So if it's changed to CI, my question is, it's not limited to just a warehouse. It could be any of the uses. So I think as a planning commission, you know, we're sort of zeroed in on warehouses, but in my mind, you know, if something would happen with this proposed warehouse, I think as we look at the change of use, we also have to look at, you know, all of the other uses in that area, and do they make sense as well? Because we're not limited to just a warehouse here. There could be something else. I think that's just something to consider. There's a lot of talk about a warehouse, but there are other uses that potentially could come in that I think we have to analyze as we're reviewing this proposed amendment.
Yes, Jeff, that is 100% correct, and that's why I say it's so easy to take our eyes off the rezoning and focus on this warehouse, but that's not before us. The rezoning is before you as a board, and that's what you should focus on.
And may I ask Kyle or Ed, I want to make certain that our commission wouldn't be charged with spot zoning. This is not a spot zoning situation, is it? That would be favorable to the applicant, but not to the surrounding areas.
I believe they've shown adequate case here that it's not. I mean, with CI directly adjacent to it across the right of way, it's not spot zoning.
Kyle, any comments to that?
I would just follow up to that spot zoning cases are typically, while there is legal precedent that can be considered, each spot zoning case must be considered on its own merit. So I'm certainly not a legal expert, and I'm not trying to portray myself as one, but based on legal precedent before, there were legal rulings that said each spot zoning case must be ruled on its own merit for each specific case. So if the zoning ordinance allows for all CI uses, spot zoning would mean that it would basically allow to shoehorn one specific type of use or one specific type of development on that land. And if you were to do like a general CI zoning development, then this likely it could not be spot zoning, but I don't want to speak on a professional matter for that. Each case has to be considered individually.
Okay, thank you, Kyle.
Madam Chair, can I address that?
Yeah.
Just a few points on that. The first on the spot zoning, you have an area in this one that's contiguous the CI already. It's not a property that's an island on its own, which is typically what you look for when you're looking at spot zoning. It's sort of a you know it when you see it sort of scenario. That's not what we're proposing, and I think the recitation that he gave as to how those cases evolve is correct. They are looked at factually, case-by-case basis. This is not one of them.
Okay.
A second point was on the form of the application. I think it was Mr. Smith who asked about, well, if we rezone and we do a map amendment, then we're going to allow for any of these other types of uses that are defined as CI within the zoning ordinance. One of the things that the applicant here proposed initially was a text amendment to the zoning ordinance, which would have made warehouses a permitted use within the CO. That's something that if there's a higher comfort level with the township with that, then changing the map entirely. But the feedback that we got from staff was that the preference was for the map amendment rather than a text amendment. And then finally, one other point that we wanted to highlight is the amount of CI is much less than it appears to be in this one, because you have about 30 acres or so here that's within the PennDOT right-of-way that's already taken away from CI. So it's area that can't be used within CI already. So that area is much smaller than it already appears to be. So I just wanted to make that point of clarification.
One of the things we have to do too is planning commission board members is to follow our comprehensive plan. So I took a look at the 2016 Middle Paxton Township and Dauphin Borough joint comprehensive plan and saw that on page 25 there was reference to the area around 322 interchange, having that as a mixed use district. Can anyone address that, either Ed or Julie or Jeff? I think you served on the committee for us for that.
I don't know if that would be better suited to.
Mixed use?
Mr. Chairman, that appears to be discussing the area down on Allegheny Street around the Arby's restaurant would be mixed use. Typically, you wouldn't have mixed use at an interchange per se.
We can take a second look at that paragraph. Yeah, it specifically says here Middle Paxton Township and how we connect with Dauphin Borough. Yeah, that's page 25. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'll jump on you, because the comprehensive plan also says on page 7 in goals, number 1, balanced development with conservation to maintain the appeal and quality of the community's existing landscapes. Objectives, page 8. Maintain the community's overall rural character in context of a balanced tax base. Protect the community's natural resources by strategically implementing land use development policies. I have a question on the traffic study too. The figures that were developed for the proposed shopping center, how are they developed? I mean, what type of stores, combination of stores, offices were used in coming up with that figure?
So, certainly. The master plan that we had, I think in the traffic study, we had about 150,000 square feet of retail space, and that was a mix of general merchandise retail and fast food kind of thing. In the master plan that was before the board back in 2007, the construct that was before you then had 185,000 square feet of retail space and 833 parking spots. And that diagram is one that went back to, again, 2007, when the board had said, hey, here's what we're doing with unit 1, the land area number 1, 30 acres. What do we do with the rest of it? So we came up with that master plan, and that has been seen before, but that totaled over almost 470,000 square feet of impervious surface that we looked at back in 2007.
So the people that do this, just take a look at what's proposed,
So-
and through a whole bunch of.
No, there's a very meticulous process that PennDOT demands, and they use the ITE traffic standards, and the ITE traffic standards specify per square foot, per retail space. Here's the trip generation in the morning, in the AM peak, in the PM peak, in the Saturday midday hour, and that's very, very carefully mapped out. So that was used as the comparative analysis for this alternative use.
Okay.
Don, on this number, how many cars for the retail space that was approved? I'm sorry, I mean, I didn't hear his numbers on here. How many? 800.
It's on the
No, it's
page.
on the traffic study.
Yeah, that's,
Last page.
that's the comparative analysis, yeah. And that follows the PennDOT protocols for traffic analysis.
So any other questions before we move to the audience comments?
Liz, I just had one more comment for the planning commission with regards back to the spot zoning. Based on some of the courses that I have taken, as a planning commission member on these rezoning proposals and potential spot zoning, there are a list of questions that we should ask ourselves as a planning commission, and some of them have been addressed already tonight in the earlier discussion, but there's a few others that I ran across that I think we should ask ourselves, and certainly I don't think any of us are qualified, nor are we required to make a legal determination at this meeting whether it's spot zoning or not, but it is something that we should consider. So, is it consistent with the comprehensive plan? I think we talked about that. Is the requested use or zoning district significantly different from the surrounding area? I think we talked about that already. But these next two we haven't talked about. One is, will the use or district benefit a few landowners while creating negative impacts to surrounding landowners? So that is one that we should probably at least consider. Another one is, will the amendment affect a small area and provide private rather than public benefit? So that's another one that we should consider. And this is right out of some of my courses that I've taken, through PMPEI. So just for consideration as we move through.
Do you have any opinion for those last two questions in particular?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, and that certainly would be helpful for Steve Stein to review with us, perhaps. He's not here this evening, our attorney. Comments or input, questions? Ralph, Gary, Chip? No? Okay, well, how about if we move on then to those of you who might like to address it, just a moment, a few ground rules here, because what you have to say is very important and we want to hear it. So once again, we just want to have one conversation at a time, please, to show respect. One person speaking at one time with the microphone right over here. I will ask you to give us your name, we will record it, and where you live. So right over there, who would like to be oh, and by the way, 3 minutes. We're going to, you can just line up right over there. 3 minutes, and Chip Brown is a bulldog when it comes to timing the minute. Yeah. So he will, yeah, you can just line up over there, yeah, thank you. So 3 minutes relating to the rezoning amendment, this is what we're talking about. So your name and where you live.
My name is Maureen Beverly.
So one speaker at one time, please.
It's Maureen Heberly. I live at 710 McKelvey Road. One question I did not hear addressed, hours of operation, backup noise, constant from tractor trailers moving around in the area. That has not been addressed, okay? If it's like a lot of the docks you see on 81, they're working at night. So their machinery is constantly going back and forth, backing up, making all the noise that happens with that. The runoff water would be treated before it would get to the river, because when you have macadam, you have trucks, you have oils, you have spillover, you have all these other things that would happen on macadam draining into your retention ponds, and then that would have to be treated before that could be put into the river. And one question you did have is we do currently have CI in the township, so that they can't say that we're not providing that for all, because that is true. We have to provide for all different types of uses. Question, would the township require a permanent bond of some type on that 300 square foot of road? That as, you know, when you bond a road, the road is bonded for so long. Then the bond is given back. So 5 years after they're gone, and now the road starts deteriorating, the township road starts deteriorating. I'm not worried about the state. State's got to work on their own. Who's going to pay for that to keep that road in shape? And the other thing is, I think there was a mention that these are 3-story apartments that will be adjacent to it. So is there a buffer for the people on the 2nd and the 3rd floor that they would not be going and looking and, you know, look out their windows and see nothing but a warehouse? And that's all I have. So if they can address any of those questions, I would appreciate it.
And some of those questions would be answered in the land development issues. Right now, we're talking about rezoning from commercial office to commercial industrial. That's what's in front of us.
And I understand that, but depending on the different uses, these are some of the questions that would come up for the different uses. Especially the noise with the warehousing. They've not mentioned anyone coming in, hours of operation, whether it's an asphalt treatment place or anything. You know, the limited hours that they can use and the impact it would have on the surrounding neighborhood.
Thank you. Next, remember your name and where you live.
My name is Robert Clutis. I live at 500 Stony Creek Road, Dolphin. I know nothing about rezoning, and I know even less about warehouse. But since it was brought up, apparently the conversation is surrounding warehouse. I spent over half my career watching traffic flow patterns, watching people whether jammed up or where they're free flowing, and I can tell you, just looking at this map, these trucks, I don't know, however many there are, they have to come to a complete stop. When they're coming westbound or eastbound, they're gonna come up a ramp and there's a stop sign at the end of these ramps. And they have to turn left at both of those stop signs across traffic. Then, when they leave, the one headed westbound on 322 can enter his ramp, but the one that wants to go eastbound on 322 is gonna have to make a left turn right there by the park and ride. Now, I know this has nothing to do with rezoning, but that's a traffic issue. That left turn is across traffic. Left turns across traffic are always a problem, always a problem. And when you got a truck, he's going to be going real slow. It's not like a car that you can approach those turns or approach those stop signs and approach those turns, and he can just get right through there. These trucks have to stop and they have to go through those gears, every single one of them. They can't downshift like that. It's just a problem. But as far as the zoning and the warehouse, you know, just talk about traffic. But thank you.
All right, thank you, Robert. Next, name and where you live.
I'm Patty Smith. I'm with Rock the Capital, and I live in Susquehanna Township. I just want to make a comment on what you just said, that the first speaker's comments and questions weren't relevant because that's taken care of in the planning commission or the planning stage. It is relevant though, because once you rezone this property, those are things that can and will happen. So you have to take that into consideration before you choose to rezone the property, because that has to be part of the decision and part of the long look down the road as to the consequences of the actions tonight. I want to go touch on what the gentleman in the teal shirt was talking about. He's talking about the fair share doctrine. The fair share doctrine states that when municipalities put together their comprehensive plan, they have to have so much of each type of zoning. You do. You did that when you did your comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan says, or the fair share doctrine says, you have to have enough of each. It doesn't say you have to have enough of each for everybody that comes. Just because your CI that you have available doesn't suit this developer, doesn't mean you have to rezone so that he can make a profit. It means he can either change his proposal to suit what's available, or he can go somewhere else. And I also want to touch on, at the last meeting, the developer, I'm sorry, I forget your name.
Whatever. It don't matter.
Nathan, he mentioned about the free money that he's giving to the township. And at the meeting, I asked him if he gives that free money to every township that he develops in, and he said yes, he does. I had a talk with him after the meeting, and I said that I would like a list of all the townships he's developed in. And he said, why? And I said, because I'd like to call them to see if they received their free money. And he asked me if I was press. And when I said no, I was government watchdog, he said I could not have that information. So I caution you on what is being said. The other thing is, he said that if you don't rezone it for him, he will sue and take somebody else's farm. Now, if you're talking about the fair share doctrine, and your comprehensive plan complies with that, which it does, then he has no legal standing to force you to change it.
3 minutes, your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Todd Fry. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. I happen to be in town for vacation. This is the first I've heard of this weekend. So don't really have a dog in the hunt, but I will say this. I happen to be the founder and the president of a solar company. This is the exact type of site we would seek out for a commercial solar farm. We have 2 in Wayne County, 1 in Lackawanna, and 1 in Schuylkill County. We typically target 40-acre sites that have modest slopes, reasonable geotech, and access to 3-phase power lines and medium voltage lines. So I'll be in state capitol on Wednesday, meeting with some legislators about House Bill 1555, which is a community solar incentive and a community solar program. So in the event this is not successful or there's litigation, please call me. But in all seriousness, I mean, as someone who's, I've been and I'm an attorney as well, but I've been in solar for 10 years now, and some of the biggest issues that are coming up here are exactly why we're an alternative use. There is no traffic, we have no impervious surface, and it tends to fit nicer in rural areas, given there's no moving parts, and it's a fairly light use compared to something industrial. Thank you so much.
Okay, next speaker, name and where you live, please.
My name is Mike Kraft. I live on Red Hill Road. I had a question, but I think it was answered by one of these other persons. We are zoned as we need to be in this township, if I'm correct. And if that is the case, why do we have to change the zone? That's my answer. If we've done everything with all the studies that we've given zonage to whatever somebody would use, we don't need to change it. The second thing, I've heard people saying about truck traffic turning left. Well, I drove for UPS for 33 years, and it was a cardinal sin to make a left turn. UPS is one of the safest, if not the safest trucking company in the United States. Two things, no left turns, and that R on your shifter is not for reverse.
Thank you, Michael. And next?
Hello, my name is Kirk Gibson. I'm a Middle Paxton Township resident. I've lived in Clarks Valley for 14 months. And now I'm relocated to Fishing Creek Valley, but I'm well versed in these types of issues. This evening we heard a lot of wonderful presentations, pretty pictures and whatnot, and I heard things stated that this is an appropriate use for this land. I'd have to say appropriate for whom? For us? I doubt it. I heard it was much better use of the land. Much better than what? I'm sure I could come up with a lot of other better appropriate uses for it. But then we got into some numbers. It's only 50 trucks per day. There's 365 days a year, which means if you do the math, 18,250 trucks per year. That's a lot of trucks. I've driven this intersection many times. Compounded with the 215 apartments, supposing each one has 1 car movements a day, that's 78,475 movements through this intersection. What the hell? You're talking a lot of traffic. Irrespective of the fact that it's only 300 feet of county property, that's a lot of traffic. Now, how many of you have commuted through this area every day? I guess a lot of us. So just by doing the numbers, I'm saying, you know, it was stated by the gentleman, this is a well-suited activity. Well-suited for whom? I would guess probably not for many of us in this room. I would also ask, have they had yet even talked to the SRBC, the Susquehanna River Basin Commission, on this? I don't know anything about water runoff, but I know a lot of water is going to run off into the river, and as it was stated, it had to be treated. I didn't hear anything about that. And finally, the comprehensive plan, as Mr. Fisher said, that every possible need to do was considered here. I mean, you could have your car shops, whatever. I didn't mention the public, by the way, but that might be a nice thing. But every possible need, that's fine. I gotta ask, do we need a warehouse? No. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Thank you. And next, 3 minutes, your name and where you live, please.
Hello, my name is Lisa Nider and I live in Swatara Township. I just want to let you know that I sympathize with the folks here because we are currently in the process of fighting warehouse development right in my backyard. So to start off, just so the Planning Commission gets a clear picture, is there anybody here that thinks this warehouse is a good idea? If there is, can you raise your hand? Yeah, I don't see any hands raised. So, you know, I just want to let you guys know that this is your community. This is your community. Just because a company can come in and paint a picture of a warehouse on a piece of land does not mean that the warehouse belongs there. There's major concerns. Also, one of my concerns is that I have elderly grandparents that live out Stony Creek. Tractor trailer traffic is much different than your car traffic. Okay? Tractor trailer breaks down, wrecks on 322, it's going to cause a lot more havoc than a single car or 2 cars. And we know the problems we have getting the Dolphin now some nights. In addition to the response time for emergency personnel, God forbid you guys don't have an ambulance company here. Something happens to one of my grandparents and somebody needs to get up to get them. 322 is your main line for emergency personnel to get to and from Harrisburg Hospital, in addition to all the residents that live up in northern Dauphin County. And speaking of northern Dauphin County, this traffic study, I'm sure it was done during COVID. So, can I tell you? Okay, so you have all those state workers that come down 322, and guess what? They're still teleworking. It's supposed to open back up. Harrisburg's supposed to open back up in July and August. I'm one of those people. So the traffic study is completely inadequate right now. These people here that want to build this warehouse, they don't know what's going to be in there. They don't know if it's going to be tractor trailers, 49, whatever. How are they planning 150 parking spots for up to 175 employees? Come on, do the math. They're already not being honest. We dealt with that with our LLC. The facts did not add up. They kept changing their facts. And guess what? We're with the Court of Common Pleas now. And we are not going to give up.
Yeah.
He wants to try. You guys have land for industry. He says it's not big enough for what he wants it for. So maybe it's not the right warehouse to be putting there. He wants to say you guys have wetlands. Okay, let's not let him get over on us. Wetlands can be exchanged out to build. If you didn't know that, look it up. So there's a lot involved here, and you guys got to be educated, and you got to make the best decisions for your community and the people that live here. Thank you.
Thank you. 3 minutes, your name and where you live.
Hello, my name's Michael Tucky. I'm also from Sweatshire Township with Sweatshire Action Team. Everything Lisa said is 100% accurate. Just because a company comes in with money does not mean you should just hand everything over. There is the proper, you did everything proper with how you had township set up with your comp plan, correct? There was nothing wrong when you did it. So, in my opinion, you should be following it. You shouldn't be changing it over for a warehouse. First off, for this to run into a residential area, leaving this warehouse and going into this warehouse, I don't think that should ever be. You have so many different people that's gonna be possibly affected from accident. You're talking, how many units was it, 200 some? 260. I mean, that's a lot of residents that are in and out. Think about how many times a day possibly they're traveling. And you have no idea who's moving in this warehouse, right? If it would be allowed. No idea at all. So how can you tell us there's only so many trucks a day showing up? You can't.
It's based on
Excuse me, sir?
It's based on the size of the warehouse and number of docks.
That doesn't mean the company that is going to spend thousands of dollars for that space is going to use it the way you think it's going to be used. That's the whole problem with all this. You should not be able to go through, in my opinion, go through and just allow anything to happen and kick the can down the road and wait for later to get more answers. And I'm not saying you're not doing your job. I know you are. But for the community's sake, I mean, once this would be done, if this happens, you can't change it. It's done. Just the same issues that we had where we live. And that's why the community fought so hard. Because you cannot have companies come in and take advantage of the citizens. We have paid dearly for our properties. The amount of traffic flow already through this area is crazy. And like Lisa said, during COVID, you cannot do accurate traffic studies anyway. I mean, it's 100% spot on.
Thank you.
So, and to not know who's actually would be moving these warehouses, we should not be making hasty decisions with any of this.
Thank you for your comments, Michael. Yep. Name and where you live.
I'm Ryan Evans. Hold the applause. I'm Ryan Evans. I live at Evans Acres, 1211 Clarks Valley Road in Dauphin. So, this is my first time here. meeting these gentlemen, and I probably should have been here other times, but I might not have been here before with them, but I have been here my whole life. So there is that. The fact that we do not find out information in adequate ways through Zoom meetings or meeting minutes posted in adequate time shows a severe mismanagement in this township. The fact that we're getting our information from Facebook shows severe mismanagement. The fact that millionaires can rezone just a small plot of 40 acres, rezone it faster than I can get a building permit for a 2-car garage. So, if I have been wrong in educating the public, and I'm sorry I'm off script, Paula, then I have been wrong for the right reasons. But I have been here my whole life. I've grown with you like I have with the Hagy family. I've built historical societies and welded trailers and done float parades and sponsored baseball teams. More than LDI's done in 15 years of just being popular. 40 acres of runoff, trash blowing around, and tractor trailers running through 322 on a Penn State Friday is going to get old quick. I don't think it's fair to necessarily come after them for offering the township a lump sum because I'm not too sure that's an uncommon practice. But that lump sum will run out eventually, and then we will subsidize their profits because we will pay for 300 feet of road to be repaired. I don't care if it's 1 foot, I don't care if it's 300 feet. We will subsidize the money they make while they destroy our roads. There is not one resident that will receive benefit from this. If there's 200 cars a day going to a Starbucks or a Dunkin' Donuts, or I don't care what else we put in there, then the residents are receiving benefit. They talk distribution of land, but they don't want to talk about distribution of trash, distribution of stormwater, or redistribution of middle-class wealth into their pockets.
Any other final comments, Ryan?
My final comment is this. Myself as a resident, my farm, we stand with Clarks Creek Water Preservation Association. Protect our environment, protect our community.
Your name and where you live, please.
Hello. My name is Paula Zankel. I live at 321 Clarks Valley Road. I am new in this township. I have only lived here since 1983. So, for all the people who have grown up here and their grandparents or lived here, I know I'm new, but I've been at 321 Clarks Valley Road since 1983. We formed a Clarks Creek Watershed, I'm president of the Clarks Creek Watershed Preservation Association, and we formed this association about 10 years ago to be a watchdog and keep track of environmental issues that encompass the entire Clarks Creek watershed, starting up at the Bendigo Airport, coming down through all the way, and that's the part that people know down to 225, but the locals know about the land that goes from 225 down to the river. I appreciate, this stream is monitored, it's a high quality trout stream, and we're very protective of the entire watershed, especially because that water, once it leaves Clarks Creek, goes down and feeds the city of Harrisburg water system. So we have alerted the Susquehanna River Basin Commission about this plan, and although they say that there's not any water that's going to end up in Clarks Creek, it's all going to end up in the river. Now, no matter which way you look at it. Now, I did some computations about stormwater runoff, and I see that they have a couple of little brown pits to cover their stormwater runoff, but any building that would be on this land, on this commercial land, is going to have the same thing. Now, they said it's a 285,000 square foot warehouse, and we figured it's about 550,000 square feet of impervious surface. That is 14 million gallons of rain a year that are gonna go into those little brown pits and somehow make their way to the Susquehanna River with oil slicks and whatever chemical spills run off that impervious surface. Also, I live on 325, and I have seen the increase in the trucks since they fixed that metal bridge on 325, and now, there never used to be trucks on 325, but now those semi-trailers are running through there every day. And you know that they do that to avoid Route 81. So there's no reason to think that those trucks are all gonna use 322, that any trucks that we get in a commercial enterprise are gonna come right down 325, past Detweiler Park, where we are all, as a member of the park committee, I know that they are planning to put a road crossing from the DCAC into Detweiler Park and make a new entrance there. That was in the master plan for Detweiler Park. So I'm concerned about pedestrian traffic, truck traffic, and if you get one truck accident along 325, we're gonna damage the water. More trucks. Thank you.
Paula, that was 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
Good job.
Right on the money. Your name and where you live, please?
Hi, thank you. Brett Zankel. I live at 321 Clarks Valley Road with Paula. I'm here to talk about a few of the legal issues that are involved in this rezoning. I don't think the township itself has done much of its due diligence relating to the background of the applicant. The applicant is Pocono Business Partners, LLC. They list an address of 3 Whippoorwill Drive in Lancaster. If you Google that address, you will see that it is a blank space of grass in between 2 houses. And Nathan Pipitone does live at 1 Whippoorwill Drive. And probably this corporation only resides in his desk drawer. This corporation has never filed a tax return with the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue, nor are they listed by the Secretary of State as an active corporation in Pennsylvania that is entitled to do any business. I've done some background research on Mr. Pipitone. He's never built or operated a warehouse in his entire career, and most of his proposed real estate developments are tied up in litigation and have been denied by the townships, especially Pequot or Pequay Township in Lancaster County. Pequay. Excuse me. Now, as far as spot zoning, I think you got some bad information from both the county employee as well as from the gentleman from Light and Heigl. Commonwealth Court decided a recent case on spot zoning on June 7th of 2020. I will be happy to provide it to you. And it's a local case. It's Allen Distribution versus West Pennsboro Township. And they set forth new rules for doing that. Would you like me to provide you with a copy of that decision?
Could you even provide it to the office and perhaps they can email it to us?
We have it here.
Okay, good. Okay.
Want me to give it to the office?
Yeah, if you don't mind. So Brooke, do you have an opinion you'd like to render about the rezoning?
Well, this is clearly under that Commonwealth Court decision, spot zoning, and would not be legal. And you can be sure that, although these people have threatened to litigate, you can be sure that the Clarks Creek Watershed Association, should you grant this rezoning, is going to litigate.
Okay. Anything else, Brooke?
We have a move on MoveOn.org petition that's gotten almost 1,000 signatures in about 72 hours that it's been up online.
I'll let him go. Okay, so Brooke, I think that was your time.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing that documentation. The next speaker, are you folks all the way back there in line, or are you just, no, okay, okay. So, name and where you live, please? We'll hear the audience members first, and Isaac will, no, Gene, comments, 3 minutes, your name and where you live.
Gene Still, Fishing Creek Valley Road. First of all, we bought a warehouse last year over on Fishing Creek Valley Road, brought by some crazy people from California, and so we defeated it. Why? Because the citizens got involved, okay? So I'm very proud of you people stepping forward and getting involved right now. You have to be involved to defeat this thing, the only way you're gonna do it. You can win. Don't take a negative approach, you can win. Next, I don't understand this, but I've been up here, this one gentleman right here represents the residents who want to be built there. Is that true, sir? Yes. You're with the residents? And this guy wants the warehouse to be built. You guys are acting like blood brothers, okay? You don't mind traffic coming from his warehouse, and it seems like you're acting like blood brothers. What's with you two? How are you related in this project? Is there any relationship at all?
Business associates.
Business associates, okay, there it is, all right. Just wondered about that. Next, tonight, are you folks gonna vote tonight, or is there a vote? When's the vote gonna happen on this, the changing of the zone?
Well, we're going to hear your comments, the rest of the individuals here, and we're going to discuss that, Gene, so you can witness that.
So
what comments do you have about?
There may be a vote tonight, there may be a vote tonight.
Possibly.
Possibly.
We don't know that.
Oh,
Go
don't know
ahead.
that, okay. So I say, folks, stick around for the vote tonight, okay? Next, you heard the people say, who's in favor of this, stand up? Nobody stood up. The only way we're gonna fight this is by hanging together, getting involved with that lawsuit, okay, that's gonna happen. So get involved and fight like mad, all right? Because we won over in Fishing Creek. You can win this here. We're here to support you, okay, in any way we can.
Thank you for your comments, Gene, and your name and where you live, please.
James White, I live at 1110 Hex Drive, Dolphin, Pennsylvania. So I've only lived there since '93, second owner of the house. I'm not a lifelong resident, but I moved here because I came out of the city. I bought on a trout stream that I thought I was gonna live, see beautiful acreage around me. And now I come up and I'm finding out, like I said, it's been rezoned, and now they're asking for different zoning. And I got a couple questions. The developer says he doesn't know what's gonna go in there. So I guess he doesn't know who's gonna build it. He hasn't talked to the local trades. Are we gonna have local workers? Or is this gonna be like we've seen the fracking up north, where people are coming from Texas, Oklahoma, California, and no local workers on this, no benefit to the local community? And with that, usually in my daytime job, when we deal with the developer, they've already met with the local people to get their put in and to see what they're gonna do. They guarantee and put in writing what they're gonna do, and they make sure everything's in writing. And yet we keep hearing, we're not sure what's gonna happen till the rezoning. Well, some of the people said, once you rezone this, it's too late. We know in my daytime job, we have to be there ahead of time. And a question right up front, most of us are on wells and septic up here, and I worry about my well. What's gonna happen? Where are you getting your fresh water? What's that gonna do to my water? We heard up north, oh, nothing's gonna happen, and lots of people lost their fresh water. When they started fracking, next thing you know, the water went bad. So my comment is, I hope you don't do this. It really doesn't fit where I live. And like I said, I am downhill. No matter which way the water runs, my water has to come from somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are you in line to speak, miss? Yes. Okay, please then. Your name and where you live. Use the microphone, please.
Hi y'all, my name is Brennan Cadway and I'm at 604 Erie Street in Dauphin Borough. I've lived in the town for about a year now. The only things I don't like about it are the noise level for 322, for whichever special earplugs to deal with, and the amount of cars that fly real fast through our streets. I'm an ecological landscaper and I care a lot about our watershed here. People depend on water for life. We need healthy streams and rivers and lakes. So I just wanted to share some facts from Penn State Extension about why are impermeable surfaces bad for water, which if this warehouse goes through, it'll be nothing but a huge impervious surface. The aquifers in the ground are not being replenished as fast as they're being used, since most of the water cannot penetrate through the surface. The water is unable to penetrate directly through to the ground, so it travels along the impermeable surface and picks up various chemicals and pollutants along the way before entering a drain. However, sometimes the surface is not done correctly and the water can puddle up instead of flow, which creates further problems such as breeding areas for insects. The contaminated water that can move them flows into larger bodies of water and pollutes them as a result. Since the water was not able to absorb into the ground and much more of it ran off into streams and rivers, it will increase the likelihood of flooding and bank erosion in these areas. The increased stormwater runoff can cause vast amounts of property damage and increase sediment deposits in waterways. The water also gets superheated on the dark surfaces, and this can stress or even kill various stream inhabitants. All inhabitants are harmed in some way by impermeable surfaces, but some are much more sensitive than others, such as amphibians, fish, and macroinvertebrates. Any stream that has above 10% impervious surface has a drastically less aquatic life and can only support very tolerant insects. Anything above 20% impervious surface has no chance of sustaining life and has become too polluted and damaged because of the runoff. What are ways I can reduce impermeable surfaces impacts on my property? One of the most obvious, but not always easiest, is to just reduce the number of impermeable surfaces on your property. I just want to say that you folks have a lot of nerve coming into our community and telling us that there's not going to be no environmental impact with this project. Thank you.
It's a dramatic exit. Your name and where you live?
My name's Julie Carr and I live on Gingrich Lane in Dauphin. I was born here. I moved away when I was 20 and about 4 years ago I moved back. Those in between times I lived down 83 where all the warehouses are. Guess why I moved back here? Because I wanted to get away from it. This community does not want it. If this is voted for, you will not be in favor with this community. This is a terrible, terrible thing for every one of us. It benefits your home. It does not do anything to us. Now I want to go back to something at the very beginning of the meeting that I'm still doing the math in my head, and I'm pretty good at math. You said there would be about 500 trips, I don't care if they're tractor trailer or not, 500 trips in and out of there a day. And yet, if we put a shopping center in there, there'd be about 90% more traffic. Now, I know you said you did your studies. Were you studying the Mall of America? Because this little town of Dauphin, our Dollar General, has at most 5 cars at it any time. And if every single person in Dauphin went to the shopping center 3 times a day, it still would not be 500 trips. So wherever you're getting your information from does not include this town of Dauphin that we all know and love. We've grown up here. You know nothing about it. You're not here. You've not done your studies. This here benefits your pockets, not a single one of us. We're not looking for jobs here. We're not looking for more traffic. And after hearing some of the things that we've heard about you, we don't want that kind of person working in our community. So do us all a favor and please exit gracefully and let us get back to being the small hometown that we are. And please, please, listen to your people. Listen to what we want. This is our community. I don't know all of you, but I know most of you are from here and have been here forever. So you must love it like we do, and what we love about it is just how it is. So please leave it that way. Thank you.
Your name and where you live?
My name is Bethany Smith and I live on Red Hill Road. That was my sister. She just conveyed a lot of what I am feeling. I too was born and raised here and have spent my whole entire life here. In fact, I love this town so much that when my parents decided to move from Red Hill Road to Miller, my husband and I bought the house that my parents, where I grew up. This place is my home. It is where I am raising my children. I want my kids to have the same kind of upbringing that I had, where they can go outside and play and not have to worry. What happens when a tractor trailer doesn't know where they're going and they decide to continue on Allegheny, which turns into Red Hill Road? At the very top of that hill is my house, where my kids play basketball, they ride their bikes. What happens when a tractor trailer comes flying up that? What are you gonna do about that? How are you going to ensure the safety of my children? You don't live here, you have no business being here, you don't have any emotional contact to this place. You were just here for the money, and I wish you would look at me when I'm talking to you. Show me a little respect, because you want to come in here and you want to ruin this community that every person in here absolutely loves. Like my sister said, we don't need your jobs, we don't need your warehouse, we don't need the traffic. People live here because they love the small community feel. And I want to tell you, I am so touched that the two of you came here to speak for our small town. That means a lot to me. I appreciate every one of you that came out and spoke. And I hope you guys, as representing Middle Paxton Township, do what is right and save this community. And everybody has addressed the legal concerns that there were. There is no reason to rezone this. We don't want their money. We do not want their money. Central Dauphin is already raising school taxes, so thank you, but we don't need your money for the Middle Paxton School. We have them well taken care of. So please pack up your stuff and leave
Any
and
wrap-up
don't come
comments,
back.
Bethany? Any wrap-up comments before your 3 minutes are up?
But the final thing, do what is right. You live in this community, you need to be able to face each one of us and look each one of us in the eye and answer for the decision that you made. So please,
Thank you.
keep that in mind.
Your name, please, and where you live.
Good evening, Commission, community. My name is Sean Hall. I live on 1771 Heather Lane. And I have an intimate knowledge of this property because my grandparents' house was on Hagy Lane, and we had permission to hunt on the Hagy property. What I want to bring up is the development of this property is going to bring in bigger environmental impacts than anybody even knows, because this section of land at the top of the field at one point was used as a dump site for garbage. So there's nothing but trash in that field. As soon as they dig into it to any capacity, if you walk through that field now, you can find spoons from the Harrisburg.
And they'll sue you for trespassing.
Naturally.
Before.
But that was before that. I actually was allowed to hunt on that property since I was 12 years old. And my grandfather, when he was still alive, told me stories of how they used to dump trucks and buses and all sorts of trash in those fields and then covered it up with dirt. The development of this land will cause leaching that we won't even understand what is actually even buried in the environment there. Let alone, this back parcel of land is all wetlands, which they failed to mention, even though they said that their other land that they could develop on, it has wetlands in it. I remember as a child, right here where the highway was put in, there used to be wetlands in the front of the Hagy field that were eliminated. So are we going to destroy the buffer for the creek and the river and allow all the runoff to just destroy our environment? That is all I have to say. Thank you.
Your name and where you live, please.
Well, my name is Michelle Hall. That happens to be my little brother. Also, same residence. He is my roommate. I owned our grandparents' house that resided at 1101 Hagy Lane. And everything that he is saying is correct. What I want to understand is why would we even be considering changing the zoning if we don't have to? Like everybody else has said, who here is gonna actually benefit from this land being rezoned if it doesn't have to be? We don't need a shopping center, we don't need a warehouse, we don't need any of that junk coming in here and bringing the traffic higher than we ever would want it. We all live in Dauphin because we love our valleys, we love our mountain, we love our creeks, we love our river. Putting an industry into a zone that we don't have to rezone, there's no purpose of it. There's already industrial zoning in Dauphin. If that doesn't meet your criteria, bye. Put it in Lancaster. Put it where you live. Put it behind your $2 million house. Please. Vote no. Vote no. Please do not change this to an industrial area. You're going to have not only the disappointment of the entire community, you will have people leaving just for the reason that we don't want to live around all these tractor trailers and all this that wouldn't bring a traffic light in here, real fast. I love bragging that the town that not only my grandparents lived in, my parents, my dad grew up in, my daughter is now growing up in. If we change the way that we're gonna zone this property, what's to stop you from rezoning the rest of the open fields that some other company wants to come in and put another warehouse in? Please, if the answer is anything but no, today is not the day that you decide. This is insane that you would push the decision to allow this in the same day that the community is finally waking up to it. That is all. Thank you. Thank
you. I'm good. I'm on Hagy Lane. I moved up here because I love the rural community, and I love the creek. I love everything about it. I don't understand why we would want to not follow our comprehensive plan in keeping with the rural feel of the community. I also am very concerned about traffic. It is dangerous getting on the highway every morning. I get on the highway every morning, anywhere from 5 in the morning till 8 in the morning, and then I come back home. It is bad getting on the on-ramp. You've got traffic coming down 225, merging with local Dauphin residents' traffic. That is my biggest concern. Not so much the traffic itself, but the trucks. Trucks do not speed up as fast as normal traffic does. And that on-ramp's very dangerous. So take that into consideration and do what's right for the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That got later wrote off in the Kelly.
Yes, I'm
Also
sorry,
have
your name again?
Mike.
Okay, Mike, thank you.
Yeah, I also have the hardware store off of Peters Mountain Road. I don't understand why we would change this. I really don't. We have the property below that's designed for this type of atmosphere. None of us in this room, except for this group right here, want this to go through. And if you have enough money, you can change anything. Is that the premise we're trying to promote here? If you have enough money, you can change anything you want to. Is that how our environment's supposed to be? It's not. My hardware store, I guarantee would be promoted by this, but there's absolutely no reason for it. If this side does not work for them, why do they get to change the rules? I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense. What are you gonna do with the sewage from this complex? Are we going to expand our township sewage? Is that what's gonna happen? I mean, where does that all go? From this property?
Into the watershed.
Yeah, into the watershed. I completely disagree with this, so.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm probably the most knowledgeable of Hagy Lane because I grew up there. My dad was Theodore Hall. That was my niece and nephew that spoke. But I am a licensed engineer. This decision of your trucking, if you let it rezone, you probably have the trucks coming through Dolphin, gonna get off it, come through Allegheny, and people say, well, let's post the roads. Well, from my experience of 40 years working at my job, the hardest thing is enforce posted limits on bridges because we don't have a local police force. Who's gonna enforce those posted limits? So we're gonna impact our roads with this development plan because even the state police don't enforce posted speed weight limits on our bridges, and roads are the same. Thank you.
Name and where you live?
Travis Rossmus, right here on Charles Road. Two of the things that get me the most about this, fast-growing plants tend to be invasives. Invasives are fast-growing because they're invasive. Knotweed, mile-a-minute vine, Don't like that terminology. I don't know what you guys were planning, but don't like the terminology. Number 2, oh crap moments for trucks. Lived here on Charles Lane 2 years now. I've counted 5 or 6 trucks that have pulled a Yui right here at this intersection. If they miss it, which isn't you guys' fault, you guys don't have to worry about it until they get on your property. But we have to worry about that. Anything that goes to industrial is gonna have a bunch of tractor-trailer traffic. They're gonna fly up Peters Mountain Road, even though Peters Mountain Road is no trucks allowed. They're supposed to go up and through Halifax. They don't, or their GPS sends them the wrong way. So there's just many downsides, because truckers can't turn around here. So that's the big kicker with going to an industrial zone.
Okay, Travis, thank you.
My name's Wilbur Evans Jr. I live at 111 Affection Road West. I'm the guy that'll be 600 feet away from whatever's built over there. But anyhow, it's a great place to live. One statement, you will have trucks coming down Gapview and stuff when the road backs up. There will be more than 300 feet of township road. They'll take Mountain Road to get over to 225, just like everybody else does. And when I'm out on fire calls, that's just the way trucks sometimes have to be detoured. So it would add a lot more to your private road than just the 300 feet. I have 2 questions. Can we have this map up? I keep hearing about 11 acres is not enough commercial industrial. I'm not sure where you're only getting 11 acres, because everything from the borough over to here is all zoned commercial industrial. You might have to buy a house or 2, but you know, that's what Bethel Still used to do. They'd buy a whole row of houses down the street. So I know you said about topography and other things, so I don't know how much topography of all of this is usable, but I'm sure it's more than 11 acres. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, you can correct me on that. And the other thing I don't understand is why you're not doing ingress and egress from Allegheny Street other than the matter of cost. So if you have DEP telling you you can't build a road there or something, that I would like to know.
I thank you, Wilbur. All right, thank you. And we appreciated hearing from you, and it is so good to see people in these seats. I can't tell you how many meetings we've had, just a completely empty room, so thank you so much for that. First, I want to open it up again to our Planning Commission members. Any other questions before we move on?
I think, to be fair, I think there was a question about the LLC, and I think your entity is registered. It is 6993435.
That is correct.
January 1 of 2020.
That's correct.
In fairness, I just want to let everybody know that. So. I think I'd like to say, ask for one thing and say another question. A building this size is, from what I'm told, is going to require some specialized fire equipment. I don't know if there's anybody, has anybody consulted with the fire department about this? No. I mean, preliminarily, what I've been told, to suppress fire in a building this size and protect the firefighters or volunteers, it probably requires a Quint ladder truck. The building, first of all, would have to be sprinklered, which I think probably would be anyways. The Quint to pressurize the system and the aerial capability to fight the fire. 2 local fire departments have bought vehicles similar to that. The costs were $1.5 million and $1.8 million. So I mean, that's something the township is required to provide for the safety of the residents and the building. So that's something that we consider. And the other thing, Jeff, I would just like for you to repeat those points for us to think about that you mentioned earlier?
Just one speaker, please, I hear some.
zoning?
Well, when you're considering, looking at things, yes.
How many courses?
Specific to the spot zoning, those points?
Right.
So, what I had mentioned before, the following questions should be considered when reviewing any zoning amendment to help identify whether or not it may constitute spot zoning. And there were four. Is the requested amendment consistent with the comprehensive plan? Is the requested use or zoning district significantly different from the surrounding area? Will the use or district benefit a few landowners while creating negative impacts to surrounding landowners? And will the amendment affect a small area and provide private rather than public benefit?
I think that, my thinking, well, I would just like to take that into consideration when looking at this overall, not just from a spot zoning point of view. I think they're important questions.
Okay, any other points before we decide where we want to go with this? Ed, how many of you reviewed the planning commission's options here?
Well, again, the supervisors passed this to you for a recommendation on the rezoning. And ideally, it would be a recommendation to deny the application or to approve the petition. If you feel like more time would be needed. They asked for options, trying to give them all the options, as that is. Now, I don't know that more information, could be forthcoming. I would suggest that you ask the applicant if there's any rebuttal or anything they would like to say before your deliberation this evening, but if the planning commission could make a determination of, recommendation, whether it's a unanimous or whether it's a partial, again, that's fine. I mean, it's the supervisors, again, will find whatever recommendation that you have extremely helpful in terms of deciding whether to move forward with a hearing on this or whether this dies on the vine. So that's.
Some rebuttal? We recommended some rebuttal.
Well, I would just ask if they would like to,
Sure.
Time's up.
There's a few things that I would like to address. First of all, 3 Whippoorwill is a valid address. I have several addresses on that property. I've lived there for 32 years. And
Could the gentleman in the back please stop talking? Thank you.
And
Go ahead.
as part of the ability to maintain my businesses at that location, it was decided with the township that the 3 address would remain. So 3 is a valid address. As gentleman said, did file a tax return. It is a valid company. As far as where we get the idea of how many trucks will be here, that's a PennDOT calculation. It's not something that we came up with. PennDOT has a guide based on what you're building, and that's what is the calculations that we use.
You don't even know what you're building.
One speaker, please.
We do intend to mitigate during the land development process anything that comes up. We don't think that there's going to be a problem to be able to mitigate anything. I did speak about the lights. When you do this type of warehouse or any type of industrial you are required to take care of filters so that you don't have spills and pollutants going into the streams. The building would be required to be sprinklered. As far as how we came up with the traffic, the traffic engineer who did this study was the one who originally did it for LDI, and the calculations that they have on this cannot be refuted by me or these residents or anybody else. And the bottom line here is that, yes, there is going to be the truck traffic, but I think when you compare that this guy has submitted a study that says there's 95% less traffic than you would have with the commercial shopping center going in there. And
tractor trailers, you are missing.
and approximately 7,800.
Bethany, please hold it down. It's this gentleman's.
He's not telling us anything he
Please
hasn't
go on.
already said.
So
He hasn't. 3 minutes.
trying to address some of the things that,
You control your daughter there, please.
I understand it's an emotional thing for the residents, but trying to address, their concerns.
Do you have a warehouse near your house, 500 feet away? That's what I'd like to address.
Yeah, let your kids walk near that.
Please,
Let them play near
silent. My goodness. All right, can you please go back to the audience? No, we need to address our.
Let's
yeah.
take a vote.
Thank you.
Let's all stand up and take a vote.
You can please go right back there. Personally, I'd like to hear from our counsel, who was not able to be with us tonight. I feel particularly with the spot zoning issues, we need to get some legal input.
I think we all agree we don't want
So,
this. We don't want
What
this.
is the,
We, the people of
Wyatt,
Boston, don't
I
want
don't even
this.
remember you up here at the microphone for 3 minutes, so please be quiet
Okay.
while we conduct our business. Thank you.
Our business.
So what
You
would
work
be
for us.
Our business.
comments?
We are just citizen volunteers up here.
None of you live
We
here.
are not paid. We are here on behalf of.
I think we, the people, should take the vote.
I understand that, but please, you keep saying to us, we're.
None of you guys live there.
You're not speaking.
Guys, they're gonna have,
None of it.
guys, they're gonna have, I know you're upset, they're gonna have to go through this.
In the light of day, not a different time.
Deliberation.
Today, we're all here.
Wow.
You've been hiding these meetings from us.
Exactly.
We're here
How
now.
dare you say I haven't seen you? You've been in the meetings.
So this gentleman from Soterra Township's right, we have to go through the process. And I think this has been a great meeting. I've been on the planning commission for 25 years. And of course I've been a resident that long too. And I've never seen people from out of our area come to these meetings. It's fantastic. That was it's very interesting, right? So I'm asking, just respect the process, like I was trying to say at the beginning. These are volunteer people, we're not paid, right? So
Correct.
we are, that's offensive, we're not paid.
No, I live here, you don't. I will have an opinion.
You can have an opinion, and we got to hear them all.
No, we
And I
did
thank
not.
you.
We had 3 minutes with no direct back and forth.
Okay, I think I've made my point, so.
Call for the question.
Okay, so what is the preference of the committee members? I personally would like to have Steve Stein review this information, so we have legal support.
Is that, I guess my question would be, is that for us to hear, or is that, because really, the way that the process works is we make a recommendation to the supervisors, and then the supervisors at that point can determine whether or not they even accept or decide to move forward with this. If they move forward with it, they decide to move forward, then there's a public meeting and there's lots of input, and it seems to me that that would be the time, if the supervisors decide, just so everyone knows, this is the beginning of the process. We are planning commission members, and for you gentlemen in the blue shirt, I do live here.
You don't live at Hagy. You live up there? You live back the valley, I bet.
He lives on Hagy.
Yeah.
No, well, my apologies.
But I know most of you up there, oh, you think it's funny. Where do you live? You don't live on Hagy.
Okay,
I gotta
so-
drive by it. You know what?
Again,
I volunteer on the EMS.
It's my time.
I have to sit in traffic
My
to do
time.
CPR for your family because we can't get up and down 322.
My
When we were
time.
flooded, I was on a boat doing CPR on people because the whole thing was blocked up.
Okay, thank you. So Jeff Smith, back to your comments.
Don't you ever disrespect me.
So my point is that I think the legal implications and consult would come at that point. That would be my opinion on it. That I don't necessarily believe that we, as a planning commission, I would recommend that we, as a planning commission, recommend to the supervisors that they get legal input. That would be, rather than us getting the legal input, that the supervisors get the legal input during their determination.
So you don't feel it would be important for us to hear about the spot zoning, an answer relating to that?
My personal opinion, as a member of the planning commission, is that we should recommend to the supervisors that they get legal input on the spot zoning, as they consider this. So personally, I'm ready to make a motion based on everything that I've heard and seen tonight. I'm ready to make a motion on.
Julie, you want to add, Julie or Ed, about legal input?
I think that's absolutely fine. I mean, the applicant has made their position clear, and certainly the township can look at that as well. It's not as clear cut as, sometimes people think it is in terms of that, but, excuse me. But, yes, I think that's fine to let the supervisors, hear from council as to whether that could or could not be an issue, because it may not even be an issue.
All right, okay. I had hoped Steve would be here tonight, but he was not able to make it. Okay, so what's your pleasure? Everyone else want to?
I'd like to hear Jeff's question.
Okay, Jeff, do you want to
So
make?
I've made some notes as we've gone through here. I would like to make a motion that we recommend that the Board of Supervisors do not consider or take action on this proposed zoning amendment. And my reasons are as follows. Number one, because the ordinance does not appear to be consistent with the township's comprehensive plan. It could constitute spot zoning and open the township up to future litigation. As we've heard tonight, the ordinance would create objectionable traffic conditions and potential environmental conditions. And I made this point at the last meeting and we talked about it again, changing CO to CI could open the township up to future challenges if the CO is not replaced, and I think Dawn talked about that a little bit.
Okay, and that's You've got that motion as he read. Do I have a second to that motion?
I second.
Ralph Stone seconds that motion. Is there any other board comments or discussion? No? Okay, well then, all in favor that we do not recommend this, is that correct, Jeff? Do not recommend
That
this.
we recommend to the Board of Supervisors, do not consider or take action on this proposed zoning amendment.
Okay, so all in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. So going back to our agenda, is there any old business, Julie, that we have not yet brought up tonight? And please, there's still a meeting going on here, so no other conversations? Julie, any other old business?
Please use the microphone.
The zoning ordinance update committee will be meeting June 24th to finish that up.
And you're representing us on that, Jeff, right? Okay, thank you for that. All right. New business, any new business that we do not have listed on the agenda? No? Okay. I just do want to mention, though, that we do have in October the 250th anniversary of Dauphin and Heritage Day, so I'll let you know that date, keep that in mind. Are there any other board member comments?
I want to thank everybody.
Wasn't there supervisor meeting? Thanks, Don.
So Don Morris is thanking everyone for coming. It's so good to see a full crowd here. Thank you for that. Any other board member comments?
When's the next meeting?
Our next meeting is 1 month from tonight.
Supervisors meeting.
Julie, when is the supervisors meeting?
Tuesday, July 6th.
Everybody be there.
July, did you say? Okay, thank you.
What time?
Any other board member comments? Okay, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Chip Brown moves. Is there a second? Phil Tutts. All in favor of adjournment? Aye. Okay, thank you.